What's going on? Welcome back to the Barbells and Trails podcast. We are here yet again, and as you guys might be able to tell just by how the camera's set up, sadly, I don't have a guest. I should just stop telling you guys that I'm gonna have a guest on because it never really seems to work out properly when I do. So, you know what? Next time it's just gonna pop up. I'm not gonna say a word. It's just gonna happen. Yeah. So this week got a few things to talk about. Number one, is Friends the best TV show ever? I know a lot of people would probably say no, but I think it's up there. One of the things I did this weekend, which I've kind of been doing in the past, was I've been watching Friends in the background throughout the day, here and there, watching an episode or two, doing dishes, stuff like that. And I actually finished the show. And so I watched it at least up to this point from season 6 to the final episode. In high school, I had someone's Netflix password, and I was watching it from the beginning, and I got up to like season 6 before I somehow got logged out. And it's a really great show. So I'm sitting here this weekend, and I'm not motivated Sunday for some reason to do much of anything. And I'm like, oh man, I really should fold all my laundry and do all that. So I was like, all right, I'm going to do that. I'm going to throw on Friends and watch that. I got through several episodes. I ended up finishing the show, and I was like, man, I still got more laundry to fold. What am I going to watch? I decided to watch and put on the Friends reunion that came out a few years ago, whenever it was. And I didn't totally know what to expect because I had seen bits and pieces and clips from it after it came out. And I know people were like, this isn't necessarily what I expected from this whole thing with it. I mean, I thought it was still pretty good. It was cool to still see the cast together again, and realizing at the time that they all 6 have not been together since the end of the show is kind of crazy. And them also in the reunion movie show, whatever you want to call it, asking questions to the writers and the people that basically made the show and come up with it. It was really cool to see kind of the background story of how this show got created and put together and how it developed to what it is now, which was very interesting because this show, I forgot that it ran from 1994 to '04. For some reason, I was thinking a little sooner, and that ended in the late 90s or very early 2000s. So it was still coming out. Like, it was still premiering when I was a kid, which is really crazy to think about because it feels like it's older, but it is really not. And they talked about the impact of the show in general, and from people around the world. I didn't realize that the show was translated into like 16 different languages and all this stuff. But yeah, they talk about the background of how they wanted to create the show Friends, where your friends are your family in that time in your life, and all this stuff, and how it ended up doing way better than any of them would have ever imagined, and how they cast the members and all this, and how Joey actually, I think during his last audition or before his last audition, fucked up his nose and took a chunk out of it because he got, I say Joey, the guy that plays Joey, Matt LeBlanc, actually messed up his nose the night before getting drunk with a friend and falling and slamming into a toilet. And he literally took out a piece of his nose and had to go into the audition the next day. So that's very interesting. But not only that, but like how like David Schumer was basically gonna quit acting before they came to him and was like, hey, we kind of created the role of Ross around you. We want you to be him. And ended up being basically the only major role I know he's ever done since. But considering the amount of money all of them took in from the show, I don't think he's going to complain. But no, it was amazing to see kind of behind the scenes of certain things with the show, and like finding out that Jennifer and David actually had um, feelings for one another, especially in season 1. And I actually wanted to date and get together, and we're flirting all the time, especially with their characters and stuff, is actually kind of crazy that's kind of, in the end, that's kind of like a very back burner plot of the entire show, is their relationship. That's always been like something going on. And so it is kind of crazy that it kind of was coming to life in real life. Like, it was actually happening that those two were having feelings for one another, but they just happened to be in relationships, so they never acted on anything, and they just kept it separate. But it was very interesting, and to me, I thought it was very weird that for somebody to basically work together with these 6 people that became part of your family for 10 years to not see one another all together, at least in 17, 18 years or whenever they filmed this, is kind of crazy. I'm like, I feel like I would have been like, hey guys, everybody, like, we're doing, we're all getting together 1 year. I don't know, all of our families, let's go on vacation. Like, I don't know. I feel like I would try doing something, but the whole story behind it was very, very interesting, and like certain plot points weren't necessarily supposed to happen. How the runner-up for the character of Joey, the actor, actually played Joey as Joey's twin later on, and I can't remember which season. I think it was like season 6. And that was the same dude that was basically runner-ups to Matt LeBlanc, which is very interesting. Which, looking at it, it's like, I don't know how I'd feel about him pulling that role. But it was really cool, and like one of the plot points that the writers didn't necessarily expect to be so important was actually Monica and Chandler's whole relationship and them getting together, and that whole storyline. Apparently that was not planned. Apparently it originally was supposed to just be those two hooking up in London, and that was basically it. But when they were filming it, and obviously having a live audience at the time, they they were doing the scene where I think Ross runs in and runs out, and then she pops out of the sheets and is like, "You think you saw me or noticed me?" And when they did that, the whole crowd just erupted cheering, and they literally cheered for like a minute, where the actors just kind of had to sit there, couldn't necessarily do anything, and nobody thought that reaction was gonna happen, and they just kind of were like, okay, maybe this is something we actually flesh out a little bit. So that's why they started it as, maybe they keep it secret, maybe they do this, and it built for certain plot points and storylines that worked and made it funny, but it was nothing they originally were planning on going anywhere. But after the reaction from everybody, they realized this might actually be something. And I thought that was really cool that they took some notion from how the audience reacted to how they should shape certain things with the show. I thought that was pretty nice that they took kind of feedback while filming. But another thing that happened in the middle of the show that I never knew was Matt LeBlanc actually dislocated his shoulder on set filming one episode. I can't remember what episode it was. I know it was the episode where he wears all of Chandler's clothing, and he's like, could I be wearing any more clothes? Blah, 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 whatever. But he went to jump into this seat, and this was after like take 4, and they had 3 good ones, and then this was take 4. And he like tripped and landed funky and just popped his shoulder out of place. And they actually had to let that episode sit and come back to recording until after he was more recovered. And they actually wrote him wearing a sling into the show. And the explanation in the show was Joey was jumping up on the bed, fell off, and hurt his shoulder, or his arm. And I was like, well, that's That's pretty interesting. But I was like, how the hell do you dislocate your shoulder on Friends? And it's just like the one time out of like a physical one physical element of the show that gets hurt. But just watching the show, it's like I grew up with this. I remember watching it as a kid, and it's one of those shows that I get it. There's probably better shows out there when it comes to plot and story and certain things, but there's just something about this show where it's just heartwarming. Like I don't like it's literally a show that you can throw on and you just feel good watching it. Like there's never a time where like I don't like this. Like it's always good. There's really not ever a time that I've ever been disappointed watching Friends. I remember watching it with my parents when I was real young. And so I rewatching it and getting up to like the end and the finale. I remember pretty much how it ended, but like one thing that I didn't remember because I'd never watched it all the way through was was Paul Rudd playing such an important role in the show. I completely forgot that he was in it that much or didn't know, and let alone him and Phoebe getting together. I didn't realize that either. So that was very, very interesting to when I was watching it. I was like, oh, this is one thing I completely was oblivious to remembering, because it's not like I think at the time I had seen like the first or the second to last and the last episode, so I knew how the show ended, but that doesn't come up at all. I had never watched season 10 all the way through growing up, so that was pretty interesting. But also, this was just like one of the largest sitcoms in the world. It was kind of I feel like probably one of the first times someone has become superstars from a TV show. Like major superstars. I mean, I think they were some of the first people, especially with that large of a cast, to make $1 million off of every episode. And I mean, the next biggest sitcom like that would be Big Bang Theory, but that started 6-7 years after Friends ended, I think. But it's just such a different time frame too. But yeah, I think that was like the first sitcom to ever just like kind of go worldwide in a way where people like everywhere kind of knew it and recognized it and understood it and knew the characters and the cast. But it's wild that something like that happened, and the way it did, it was just so organic that people just loved the show, which was crazy. And I still love it. Like, it's probably something I hope to actually watch with my kids eventually, because it's just such a good show. It really is. Like I said, it's just such a feel-good show, and you feel like you're there with friends. Like it's, and I've heard other people say the same thing. It's just one of those TV shows that just you can always throw on. If you're ever feeling down or bored and you don't know what to watch, or you need something kind of in the background, that's never a bad option. And I think that's one reason why it did so well, was unlike certain other shows and other things that never focused on real life shit or topics or negative stuff. It was always pretty optimistic and happy, and there wasn't necessarily a lot of bad stuff in the show. Like, it was just overall, like, any episode, you're probably gonna laugh or smile or get happy from something, and it's great, and I love it, and I can't wait to maybe eventually rewatch it again. Like, it's been a long time. Technically, it's been probably technically took me, I think, like 6 or 7 years to watch it from the beginning to the end. So hopefully it doesn't take me that long next time. But not only that, speaking of Friends, this is a topic that I want to talk about in general, and I will eventually talk about it probably a little more in depthly, and maybe even with someone else on the podcast. So I feel like it'd be very interesting. But the crisis of young men in America. There's a book I want to read that talks about this topic. But this week I was listening to a news podcast, and they brought up these statistics, and it was very, very surprising, but at the same time kind of made sense, sadly. And that in the newer generation, younger men are having issues in every way around it, pretty much. One of the things that that threw me off was that 80% of all suicides are young men between the ages of, I believe, 18 to 29. And that's something that's just not talked about. It really isn't. But one of the things that's really crazy is that they explained in this that 64% of men 18 to 29 are single. And only, I think, like 30 something percent of women. And I never thought about that. And I was like, well, that's kind of weird, but it makes sense. And the reason, I think it was like 33%. And the reason the math doesn't add up is because women are going towards older men. And some of the reasons being is because they're more financially stable. They might own a house. They have better jobs. They make good money. All these different things that pushes, and they're more stable and they have stability. So it pushes women into dating and getting together with older men. And it is very interesting. It's kind of sad between that and let alone the birth rate dropping in the United States. Probably a little lower than it needs to be, because in all reality, when you think about it, we have the largest generation of in the past century going out slowly but surely. They're starting to die out. Baby boomers are starting to go away. They're getting that age where after that generation's gone, there really hasn't been a big wave in the past couple generations of people. So our population is going to drop, and which is kind of crazy. But not only that, but another issue that causes that I guess difference in singularity towards the dating life of young men is that it's almost a 60% women graduate college, 60-40 split. More women are graduating college, more men are going into the workforce. And because of that, women are saying that they're less likely to date men without college degrees. And it does seem very petty, but at the same time, you can kind of get both sides of it to an extent. When women look at it, men with college degrees probably make more money, they're more stable, they might have more similar ideals, more similar experiences, whatever. At one point, I get it, but at the same time, it is a weird. It is to me kind of a weird stipulation for dating, but not only that, but now the wage gap is kind of going in the opposite direction as some polls are taking it, saying that in certain places the weekly wage difference between the average man and woman, at least in a younger age, is maybe $40 a week. So basically parallel. But in some places, it's actually gone the other direction, especially in some major cities. Women are making more than young men. And part of that is because of the college degrees and getting different jobs. And so that's just, again, building a gap between that generation and our young men having the ability to date and do stuff. So it's very interesting. Not only that, more men are have suicidal thoughts and depression and anxiety, and they have less friends than they used to 20 years ago. I think it was 10, 15 years ago or something on the statistic. Most men would say they have 6 or 7 really close friends. Now that number's either dropped by half or more, or some say they have none. And it's kind of crazy to think about, especially just watching Friends. It's like, yeah, like people were really close to their friends back in the day. And I feel like that was more commonplace than it is now. And I feel like people make friends over the internet, but they're not real friends. They're not close friends. But it's like, even with myself, I could maybe say I got 3 to 4 close friends. If I count my sister, make it 5. So that means I'm on the upper limit of most people. But until like a few years ago, it was mainly just Noah. And like in high school, like the close friends I thought I had, apparently they weren't there. It was a one-sided relationship. So I basically have one really close friend, and that was it. And for him, I think it was kind of the same. And so that's kind of crazy to think about, where I think it is harder for some reason now to have that same relationship with people, and I really don't know why. But this is one issue that just kind of gets blown over because of like the toxic masculinity topic, and people think that like I think one of the reasons why suicide rates and especially for young men in general is so high, and like men feel so down on themselves, is because over the past 10 years men have been so degraded and taught that especially growing up, that most men are pieces of shit. They do this, they do that. Masculinity is terrible. You can't do this. You can't be a man. You can't act like this. And I think that between that and the lack of purpose, it's just caused some of these issues to skyrocket. And I think also there's just not as much, like, people are willing to help a woman over helping another guy, for sure. And that's normal. And that's just something in the background that most men live with that you might not realize have a major effect on them. So this was just like a crazy topic, and some of the statistics I heard was absolutely crazy and blew my mind. Not necessarily super surprising though either. So it was just kind of crazy. I'd love to get a friend of mine on here and actually talk about it with them, and actually learn more about it, because it is such a crazy topic for young men, and being one myself, but it makes a lot of sense. And I think that's one reason why with some of those issues, I kind of preach that people should try going to the gym and do things to better themselves in some way, between reading and exercise and sauna or cold showers or whatever, because it's ways to mitigate those feelings that people don't do anymore. And it definitely helps in general on probably all of those fronts, building confidence and your mood and all these different things. Like, everything feels better when you do these things in the long run. And I also feel like that's part of the issue, is that's also gone. I feel like it's so weird. We have people were definitely more healthy back in the day. They weren't overweight as they were now. But today I feel like there's a lot more people that actually go to the gym, lift weights, and work on physique and look and try to get big than 50 years ago. So it's crazy. There's more fitness knowledge. There's more nutritional knowledge. That's more of a thing. But then at the same time, there's still more unhealthy people, which is kind of a weird thing to happen. And that's not normal. So I think it is a very interesting topic. And I mean, I'd had to kind of figure myself out to understand certain things myself. So it is a struggle for a young man to kind of see where he should go in life, and it is kind of a challenge. And I kind of get these statistics in a way, but I can't wait to actually dive deeper into that, and that would be very interesting to talk about. But on a better topic, let's talk about some music. So, NF just released a new song 2 weeks ago now. I was supposed to talk about it last week. I ended up forgetting. That's my bad. I completely forgot about it when recording. It's called Hope. He's releasing a new album at the beginning of April. So it kind of sucks. I still got to wait a month, considering he hasn't released any new music since 2021, and his last album was 2019. So it's been a while. It really has. And the album's not even as big as I was necessarily expecting. I was hoping it was going to be a little more, like, lengthwise. But the song was absolutely amazing. The the visual effects and the story of through the song, great. And he's always been able to build off of his storyline and his albums and growing it, and basically his whole career being a journey through his music, which is very interesting. Not many people do that anymore. And it was so good. Like the visual, the music video alone was absolutely outstanding, let alone the music itself. And I can't wait to see what he comes out with this album. Let alone, I can't wait to see him in person again, because his concert was absolutely amazing last time. So I can't wait to see all that. But on the topic of music as well, Logic just released a new album, and it's called College Park. So I talked about this, I think, a handful of weeks ago, because I noticed all the singles being released, and I noticed, I got a notification of like order a College Park vinyl, early release, blah blah blah. So I hadn't heard him announce a new album coming out, or I guess I might have missed it, but I knew it was coming, and I was like, "Ooh, this is gonna drop sometime." Let alone a week later, it drops. So this whole album, I do love Logic because through his albums he creates a story in the album itself. He creates a storyline, and if you listen to it from start to finish, you're following that story. And so in this whole album, basically the plot is supposed to be 10 years ago when he was first getting started into rap. Basically back at College Park, back in Maryland with his friends, like starting to get ahead in music and get a name for himself a little bit. And like in it, he's picking up people, and they're on their way to a gig, and they're gonna perform, and there's shit that happens throughout it, and then the music kind of plays a role through the whole thing. It's really good. Different. Vinyl Days was pretty good. Both of them are a little more old school. But I do have mixed feelings. I had a friend that actually said he hated it, and I was like, okay, that's a little much. You're a Logic fan. I know you don't hate it. I wouldn't say this is definitely my favorite album, but it's not bad. And actually, I think it's the last song of the album. It's like 8 minutes long. There's a lot of dialogue in the songs, like in each song, and that's what he said he didn't like as well. And I was like, I do kind of agree with that. If you're gonna make a song, keep it a song. Don't add skits. Don't add all this extra dialogue. I think having those are fun, but break those away from the song itself and maybe put them in between, because I think it takes away from the song itself. Like, it's cool to have the story and to have all this extra stuff, but you can't take away from the music by having these skits in there. But either way, on the last song, he talks about wanting to quit rap, which is very surprising. And that the whole thing was he's supposed to be talking to his friends back in the day, and how he doesn't want to basically box himself into his career through rap and not be able to express himself other ways. And so he talks about that and how he wants to eventually branch out, because he's like, I don't want to be 50 and rapping and doing all this shit on stage. He's like, I'd rather be able to do other stuff. I want to play guitar, I want to sing, I want to whatever. And it was like, interesting, cool. So then, like, the last 2 minutes of the last song, he whips out a guitar and he's singing. But it's not it's a song, but it's not like a song. It was like he literally was like doing a small demo. Like, this definitely was not like a full-fledged song of him writing it and singing and playing guitar, but it's just like a sample almost. And I mean, I gotta respect the guy's decisions. He can do whatever he wants, but it's gonna be different when he pulls out a new album and there's no rap on it. That will be something I won't know how to feel about it at first. But I mean, hey, he can do what he wants. Like, it's his career. I want him to be able to make new stuff. So I'll be curious to see what exactly he comes up with and what he develops and what other genres he takes part in. If it's only guitars and singing, I'll be surprised because I feel like he'll want to do something else that's a little different. So I'm curious to see what happens and how he kind of shifts his career just a little bit and doing stuff. Like, I don't know if he'll go on the pop side. I don't know what exactly he'll do. I mean, when you think of KSI, he started out with rap and doing stuff and hip hop, and he kind of developed, and as he got better, more towards more pop side of music, which is pretty interesting and not bad, and it works for him. So it's interesting what's going to happen with Logic and that whole situation. But speaking of KSI, the Jake Paul Tommy Fury fight just happened last weekend. So speaking of Jake Paul and Tommy Fury, their fight happened. I didn't watch it, but I heard the results. I haven't even watched the highlights, honestly. I think I just asked someone. I was like, "Oh, who ended up winning?" And Jake Paul actually lost. Not. I mean, I'm kind of surprised, but not unsurprised. I didn't totally know how Tommy Fury was going to do and how that was all going to go. I knew it was probably going to be a pretty good fight and a challenge. But I was like, oh, he didn't get knocked out, did he? And they're like, no. It was a decision. I was like, okay, that makes sense. I expected that. I wasn't expecting him to necessarily get KO'd. So that happened. It will be interesting to see what happens with JJ and Jake now, and how that whole thing will wrap around, and if when they're gonna fight. And I guess that might give JJ more leverage, but then at the same time it doesn't, because of who he was able to fight. It's a pretty honorable loss, I guess, in the sense of fighting Tommy Fury. So we'll see how that kind of happens with that whole storyline. I think it'll still be awesome if those two fight here at the end of the year. That'd be crazy. And it is kind of crazy that we are 2 months into the year already, and March is literally today. So it's crazy. The year's moving fast. If you guys are still here, which I hope you are, I do want to give you guys an update on my whole studying situation. I have finished the course. I'm not saying I got my license, because I haven't, but I finished the course. At this point, I am just prepping and studying for the final exam and the state exam. So I have taken in all the information. Now I just got to figure out what I need to work on and study like a college student and see where it goes. So hopefully I'm taking the test here in a couple weeks, and we will go from there. But yeah, I've finished it, and it took a lot of time, and I'm glad I did it. I still got a little ways to go before I make anything out of this. So I just thought I'd fill you guys in. And speaking of filling you guys in, I've been posting shorts now for technically 29 days. Tomorrow is 30. But I've been posting shorts, and I kind of wanted to tell you how things have been going with it. I mean, I will show you the analytics maybe on next week's episode. I'm posting a short tomorrow to actually go through it a little more. And I'm going to actually create a short, not clips, not whatever. And it's done really well for the channel, honestly. I've gained almost, in the past month, I think I've gained 25 subscribers, which is absolutely awesome. I think we're on 70 now, which is crazy to think about, honestly. And I think we're at, and I don't know if that's all from shorts. I'm just saying in the past month in general. And then because of shorts, I've had almost, I think, 17,000 views. My watch time is like 205 hours and like certain things. And my long form videos haven't done bad. Last one didn't necessarily do great, but I didn't have a crazy crazy plot or topic to go over. So that happens. But it's doing really well, and I think it is helping. I'm hoping that the new subscribers turn into long form viewers for the podcast itself, and we can keep slowly but surely growing this podcast and making more videos. And I do think eventually I will, and once I get to a more comfortable position with this and coming up with, I feel like, a better system to make things run smoother, I would love to at least do 2 podcasts a week and go from there. That'd definitely be nice if I have a host, or even like someone else to host with me, or even if I was willing to get it where I had someone on at least for one of those episodes a week. I think that would really help. So that's probably a goal I want to work on sometime this year, and figuring that out and doing that. But since I'm kind of at the back end of the studying thing and the course is over, I'm probably going to focus on I'm going to try getting the clips channel up and running again. I kind of put that on the back burner there for a while, so I have to do that this weekend in particular. I'm probably going to try getting a lot of stuff done there, and I'm going to probably start using some of these shorts and posting it on the Instagram and seeing how they do, and hopefully go on the Instagram to hopefully help contribute to the YouTube channel. So we'll see. I hope you guys have been enjoying the shorts. I know some of them are a little but I'm still trying to figure out like what to post, what to do this. I don't necessarily want to have like big names and everything, but at the same time I want to try getting it where it has some publicity. Like I had a few that literally did 13 views. So not many people at all saw it. Where I've had others where 1,400 people have seen it. So like I'm trying to find a good balance, because I don't want to necessarily talk about Prime all the time to boost it. I don't want to talk about KSI. I don't want to talk about Logan, Sidemen, certain things. I want to try having a decent thing. It just depends on the scenario and what I do, but I don't necessarily want to always use other people to try to get the views on it. So we'll see what happens there. But I hope you do enjoy this week's episode. And I'm going to have to get off of here because I got an appointment to go make. So I'll see you guys all later. I hope you guys do enjoy the shorts. Be sure to subscribe if you're still here and like the video. And I will see you guys all next week. Peace out, everybody.